last year that we liked, and so we're going to keep building on that.
Over here to the right, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, the offensive line has been a big issue all spring. What did you see today? How concerned are you overall?
Inconsistent. I thought that there was some good things, but we need more consistency there. You know, the good news is on defense we're getting in the backfield and creating confusion and chaos. So it's one of those things where you always want.
It is now closed for the day, and we thank all of you who participated in a raffle.
I got it, Jerry. Can't escape it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No matter where you turn, it's right there.
Nails everywhere.
You're taking your numbers, right?
See Austin. What was the question?
Yeah, about the offensive line.
Yeah. So good to see the defense make some plays, and that was good. But we need more consistency there. Yeah.
Over to the left, Cam Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, kind of off the offensive line question. You guys mix and match a lot all spring just to figure out what works, what doesn't. When you talk about consistency, how do you evaluate consistency when you might have a different tackle guard combination in different times?
Yeah, I don't know if that matters as much. I know what you're saying. I think that's more during the season when you start to get into calls and things like that. We were very vanilla on defense today. We didn't blitz one time, so there really isn't a lot of communication. That this is one-on-one, me against you technique. That's what really the spring is, we think, and then we start getting to schematics more. We did it a little bit at the end of spring, but more in the preseason. So this is about being able to consistently do it. When you flash, when we say, he flashed, what does that mean? That means he's done it once or twice. You've seen him do it. It's like coming home with an A in algebra. Then you expect to come home with an A in algebra all the time. You can't come home with a C then, in the second marking quarter or marking period. So that's what we're looking for. And that's what separates good from great players, is being able to do it all the time. So we need to see more of that.
We're going to go over here to the right, Tim May with On 3, and at the same time, I'm going to bring Denzel Burke and Cody Simon and set them up in the back for anyone that wants to talk to them there. Go ahead, Tim, and then we'll go back over to the left, Rob Aller.
Ryan, leaving the field after that game against Georgia, you were kind of, disappointed in the defense, I guess is the best way of putting it, right? Do you leave here today with like a renewed optimism? I mean, how would you explain?
Well, I think when you leave the spring, you get a feel for where things are. And when you start the spring, it's hard. And I think you hear, me say or us say that, we'll get through the spring and we'll have a better feeling. So coming out of the spring, I do. I think the first thing was the back end explosives. You saw today we didn't really give up a lot of explosives, maybe just a couple there in the second half. And that's important for us, we expect to score a lot of points on offense. And if we can avoid explosive plays, then that's a recipe for winning, which that was the idea in 2019, and we need to continue to do that. So as we come out of the spring, we'll evaluate it. We'll go through each position, but there's reason for optimism for sure.
And real quickie, when you evaluate Cal today, do you keep in mind that there was very little time sometimes to get things done? I mean, how do you balance all of that?
Oh yeah, you take all those things into consideration. Yeah, for sure. It was. I know Devin was excited about playing in this game, so not being able to was disappointing for him. But I thought, Tristan and Kyle both, were out there competing, and it wasn't always a clean pocket, wasn't always a clean look on the back end. But I did like the throw he had for the touchdown. Those were, being able to make those throws are big down the field. When you have an opportunity to make those downfield throws, that's been the difference for us. That when we were explosive, we're at our best football, and so that was a good step in the right direction. What's that? Yeah, a little bit here and there. Yeah, but not as much as today.
Over to the left, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Ryan, every team is unique. Every team has its own identity. I think last year leadership was a big part. Is it too early to say what the identity of this team is? Maybe not on the field, but behind the scenes?
No, it's something that we wanted to forge early in the off season, and it was about competing. We've talked long and hard about how there's difference between hard work and competing. Everybody's working hard. If without it, you don't have a chance. But competing means winning or losing. And so we had a lot of win or loser. I think you guys were at a couple of the practices. You heard that all the time, win or loser, compete. We have another message that we want to get in the summer. We'll get into that down the road. But it's been about competing. And that when you go against your clone, when you go against your equal and talents equated, what are you going to win? What's your edge? And so that's been a huge message for us and a focus and emphasis.
How is the leadership? I know you developed it last year with some stuff you did. Is it carried over, or do you have to kind of start from scratch on that?
Well, we did the same thing we did the year before. So we went through the leadership, voted on that leadership committee, drafted squads, and I thought it was excellent. We're going to do that again. So we start again right after the spring. We'll draft or we'll pick some new leaders, because some guys that you think are leaders in February maybe don't do a great job, or some emerge, and so that changes. And then we'll go through and have another draft, go through the summer workouts with Mick, and then we'll have a really good idea of who the captains will be when we get into August. So this is our second year doing the leadership committee and having these squads, and I think it's really built strong leadership in the team, and I feel good about where our leadership is at right now.
We got 2 more questions for Coach over here. Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
To go back to Kyle, and I guess you could talk about Devin in the same capacity, but a couple times today he had those, like, from one far hash to the sideline throws, like things that look like they're tougher throws. Where do you feel like both of them are right now, just as far as the underlying skill that maybe still has to be refined? Are you happy with where that's trending?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kyle and Devin both have strong arms. They can make that field throw. When you're playing against drop 8 and you're playing against, zone coverage like that, they're gonna drop pretty hard. And we relied a little bit on drop back pass. Once you get to drop back pass, you're seeing those guys drop into the zones, and then you have to really negotiate the zones. I thought when we did call a couple of the play actions and the RPO at the end there, where guys are down to the line of scrimmage and create more of that run pass conflict, it opened up some more windows. But I think Kyle can do all of those. We've seen them do that, where he can make all those throws. He can handle play action. He can handle RPO. He can handle drop back pass. He can make the field throws. So he definitely has the skill set.
Over to the left, Stephen Kishbaugh, the Lantern.
Coach, on Wednesday you mentioned that the defensive line was an area that you were a little bit concerned about. How did you think they looked today, and what do you think they still need to improve upon?
I don't know if I'm concerned about the D-line. I think one thing that we need to make sure we're doing is building depth. Yeah. I feel like, we have the right people in place, in terms of starters and the first group or so. Now, those guys have to play great, and that's important. As you take the next step in your progression, it's one thing to be a starter. It's another thing to be a difference maker. I think we have quite a few guys that can be difference makers. I think, you're referring to the depth. And we like to play a lot of depth here. It's a long season. So that's an area that, we got to continue to see improvement. But guys like Kenyatta Jackson stepped up, and we need more and more of those guys to do that in the D-line.
And final question for Coach over here to the right, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, C.J. Hicks today, is that flashing, or is that consistency? Just what have you seen from him today, this spring? And if that's who he is, how do you find time for him this season?
I'm going to put a new category in there. He flashed more today. So, we're still looking for that consistency. But you're starting to see it more and more. He's making plays. He's showing up. And I think, Jim and James are both doing a great job with him.
If I can, I'll put it out.
Is he a gamer more than a practicer at this point, or is it just youth?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. I don't know really, as much as we practice, if being a gamer, really exists. I mean, certainly some guys, can handle playing games better than others. But if you don't practice well, it's hard to play well. And what we saw in practice is what we saw in the game today.
Great. Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Folks, let's go ahead and wrap up with Denzel. And we'll see what else we can get done here. All right, folks, we're going to open up for questions with the front. Just direct who you want them to. We got Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. We'll open up. Who's got a microphone? Okay, we'll open it up with Dan Hope, 11 Warriors, and then we'll go with Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Yeah. For Devin, obviously, you weren't able to play today. Just what happened to your finger, and when do you feel like you're going to be able to get back out throwing again?
Yeah, it was just a slight little thing in practice. Just had a little procedure on it. Nothing crazy. We'll be back in 4 weeks or so.
What was it like just watching today? Was that hard for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard knowing I could have been playing out there, but I mean, we were working for it all spring. But at the end of the day, I was just happy to be able to cheer on my guys and do what I could.
Okay, over here to the right, Dylan Davis.
Kyle, where would you evaluate your command of the offense? Year 3, third spring now. Where would you evaluate your command of the offense right now?
I think every year you take a step in the right direction. Whether that's spring and then into fall camp into the season, I think you learn a lot along the way. And I think you get out of it what you put into it. I think the more film you watch, the more reps you get. I think it helps you take those steps. So I mean, year 3, I feel pretty good. Feel like I came a long way than where I was when I first got here. So I feel like I'm in a good spot right now.
Over here to the left, Andy Anders, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
Yes, for Kyle. There was a throw early on to Marvin you had. You kind of layered it over the safeties nicely.
Yeah.
It seems like you've always had a strong arm, but how have you developed that ability to layer throws over time?
Yeah, it's something that we work in practice every single day. We call it a 1-inch throw. So we'll put like a baseball net out there, and I mean that's the safety, linebacker, whoever is dropping back in coverage, and you got to get it over the linebacker or whoever it is, and then drop it into the receiver's hands. So it's something we work literally every single day, and it shows up a lot in the game. So it's definitely something that we make an emphasis on.
Over here to the right, Austin Ward, Rivals, the podcast.
Kyle, Coach Day was really kind of raving about the throw to Carnell for the touchdown.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because you wanted to see a passing touchdown or you did something special there.
Yeah.
Take us through that play.
Yeah, so that was the first play of the fourth quarter, so we had some time to talk about what look we were trying to get there and what we wanted. And so, I mean, Carnell ran a really good route. The line did a good job of protection. And, I made a good throw, too. So I think, when all those things come together, that's the result is a touchdown. But I think that's a tribute to the 10 other guys, everybody doing their job. And, when that happens, good things happen.
Over here, Tim May on 3.
Yeah, for each of you guys. Does it matter that no one has declared a winner in this race yet? I mean, how does this take you into the next offseason, headed to the opening of preseason camp?
Yeah, the competition's been great. I mean, we both know what it is, but I think at the end of the day, Devin's definitely making me better, and I think vice versa as well. So, even though there's not a winner of the job yet, I think that benefits both of us, honestly. And I think it's going to push both of us going into fall camp, and there's still a lot of time until the season. So I think just keeping each other hungry. I think he'd say the same thing. So I think that's definitely the wise thing to do at this point. Just keeping each other in check, keeping each other going.
Right next door. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much Kyle hit it right on the head. We're trying to get each other better every single day, and that's all we can ask for is pushing each other. And I'd say Kyle would feel the same. When you're with the best competition, you feel like you got to play at your best, so you got to bring it every day. But at the end of the day, we just want what's best for the team, and whoever's going to win the job is that guy.
How much of a bummer was it for you to have to watch this last week?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it sucked, but at the end of the day, I felt like I had a good few practices in the spring. I think I had 10 practices before this happened, or I think it was 11, something like that. But I felt like I had enough days to just really still feel good about my spring and not really have to worry about the rest of it.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Kyle, what did you get out of the spring? And did you get as much out of the spring as you hoped? And was there something you wish you had proven that maybe you didn't? How do you kind of feel coming out of spring?
Yeah, I thought the spring went well. I mean, obviously, spring is a time where, we're putting in new stuff, seeing if it works, seeing what's good for us and what's not good for us. So it's definitely, I'd say a little bit of a learning period. But at the same time, you want to build that chemistry with the guys. And, I think going with the 1s and the 2s in the spring is good. That way, I'm building chemistry with, 6, 7, 8 receivers, 4 tight ends, all that. You're getting good reps with the whole offense. So I definitely feel like the spring went well.
Over here to the right, Doug Lesmaurice, Cleveland.com.
For both you guys, Kyle first.
Yeah.
It's a very different situation, but 5 years ago we were in this room and Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow had finished a quarterback competition, and one of those players decided to leave to go do something else. Is there any part of this in the competition, Kyle, that has ever been in your head once you got through spring that would be a possibility?
No, I mean, when I committed here, I made a promise to myself that, I was just going to come here and compete. And, guys have come, guys have go. But at the end of the day, I think, if you're confident in your work, confident in your game, you're going to be, at a good spot regardless of who they bring in. And so, you're at a place like Ohio State, they're going to bring in the best quarterbacks. They're going to bring in really good competition. And, you have to earn it every single day.
Can you answer that as well?
I'm sorry, repeat the question for me.
Just the idea of you get to the end of spring, would there be anything in your head, a possibility of thinking about a transfer if you're not thinking you'll be the starter?
Yeah, no, that's never crossed my mind. I've always been a guy that's going to stick to my word and stick to where I'm at. And I've always said from the beginning, I came here and I wanted to compete. And, if that's not how it goes, that's how it goes. But I'm sticking around. I'm still a Buckeye. I want to do everything I can to help this team.
We're going to go just a couple more questions. Bill Landis, Rivals, the podcast.
I think both of you guys can probably answer this. Whichever one of you is the starter in the fall is going to step into a really good situation with all the weapons you have, but not all of them have been available this spring. In fact, most of them haven't been available this spring. How has that been kind of working through that when maybe you go through some struggles? In the back of your mind, do you tell yourself, like, I'm still learning from this, and when we get on the field in the fall, who's around me might be very different?
Yeah, I mean, like Kyle said, the spring is just a time to learn and grow. We're still trying to figure out what kind of team we have right now. I mean, there's a lot of new freshmen that are stepping in. I've never played college football before, and they got to learn the offense just as much as we do at this time, just because everything's so new. We're just trying to keep adding things, see what works, see what doesn't. And every year it's a different team. It's never the same team every year, no matter who comes in. But, I mean, injuries is the name of the game. I mean, it always happens, but either way, we get to work with guys that are still growing and figure out what works.
Over here to the right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Kyle, you had 2 years with Coach Wilson and now one with Coach Hartline in the spring. What's that been like for you to go through an offensive coordinator transition? And just now that you're on the other side of it, how do you think that went with Coach Hartline for 15 practices?
Yeah, I think Coach Hart stepped into that role seamlessly. I think, he sees the game from a really good perspective. And I think, that's a testament to his time playing and now being a coach. He sees all 11 guys. Sometimes with the receivers coach, you would think, he only knows the pass game. He doesn't know the run game, doesn't know the protections, but he understands all that fully. And I think, he stepped up to the role and hit it out of the park. And we put in some new stuff that worked really well that we'll use going into the fall. But I mean, in terms of just from like a quarterback perspective, I mean, it's been kind of consistent with Coach Dennis and Coach Day, so having that consistency, has kind of helped me through that transition. But honestly, it wasn't crazy transition or anything like that.
And final question, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
For both of you guys, and this is sort of a follow-up on what Bill just asked you, but with the top receivers not being around necessarily all this spring, with the defensive line having kind of an edge up front, I mean, do you guys look at that as an opportunity more than anything, that whoever wins this job, or eventually you're going to have to win with whoever in order to fulfill what Coach Day wants in an Ohio State quarterback?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the starting receivers today, Marvin Harrison, Carnell Tate, and Jaden Ballard, I mean, those are 3 really good guys. And that's without Emeka and Julian and Xavier. So, I think even, the twos today are still really deep. So I don't think, the personnel really, affects, too much of what we do. All the receivers have done a good job of getting open, getting a good job of making plays, catching the ball. And so at the end of the day, being the quarterback, you just have to, do your job, get the ball to the right guys, make the right protection calls, all that. Because at Ohio State, regardless of who's in the game, they're going to be a really good player. So if you're going to be the quarterback here, it's just a matter of getting, the team in the right situation, getting the ball out on time, all those things. So I think it's all in the details.
Devin, too? Or no?
Good. Yeah, I mean, Kyle pretty much hit it. At the end of the day, we're Ohio State. We're always going to have the best players no matter what. And, if they're 2s, 3s, even 4s, they're still going to be some of the best players in the country. And at practice, we try to make practice as hard as possible so that Saturdays are easier. So, when we have guys like JT and Jack Sawyer and Michael, all these guys on the D-line, really pressing us, it forces us to get our feet going, get the ball out faster, and make the game situations a lot easier.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Media, thank you very much.
Thank you.